Hello there, and welcome to my video diary for day 13 of the Lexical Lab 2018 Summer School. Day 13, unlucky for some. Luckily, not unlucky for the students we have on our Developing Materials course that I was teaching today. It's only a 1-week course, and obviously there's a limited amount that you can help people with in terms of thinking about writing their own materials over that period of time. But I think there are kind of core fundamental principles that you can focus on, and certain kind of tricks of the trade that you can kind of help people to that will help them, deal better with their own classroom material that they're making. Interestingly, a couple of the people on the course make very specific writing materials for business students and kind of ESP students that they're working with, often in very small closed groups. And actually, I think one of the first kind of materials that I started developing myself was in the mid-1990s when I was teaching a group of Indonesian textile office workers. They were basically working for a big company, and they were buying fabric and selling beautiful Indonesian textiles, and they had to write emails, and that was basically their main need for English. A couple of them had jobs which involved also visiting dignitaries around and explaining menus and that kind of thing. But the primary need that they had was to understand the emails that were coming into them and to put together pieces of writing that were, useful for their companies. And in this kind of context, I think, where you're working with very clearly delineated kind of goals and needs, it's a bit like teaching one-to-one students. You can help the students to essentially construct a kind of phrase book of bits of language, both lexis and grammar combined, that will help them perform those particular kinds of writing tasks. And I think one of the problems that we often have when we're doing writing in class is a lot of writing that students end up doing in class is sort of non-genre. So if you're just asking the students to, write a poem, or low-level students maybe to kind of comment on an Instagram picture, that's fine as a way of giving students practice in writing, but it's very difficult to teach towards because there's no specific genre and there's no specific kind of structural features or lexico-grammatical features that you can focus on. If, on the other hand, you're doing something which is a bit more generic, such as, letters of complaint for FCE level students, there are all kinds of little features that you might want to focus on there. So you might want to focus on a common pattern which revolves around according to. So, according to your website, all of your teachers are highly qualified, experienced professionals. However, in reality, the teacher that I had was none of these things. According to your brochure, a 50% discount would be offered to early bookers. However, in reality, we would charge 110% of the normal price. So you've got those little patterns. You might also look at something like the passive, okay? Often students will have studied the passive. They will have studied reported speech by upper intermediate level. What they might not be so good at doing is to use passives in reporting structures in letters of complaint. So it's kind of narrowing down the grammar and the lexical focus, the grammatical and the lexical focus, to think about what's specific to the language that students need to perform these particular kinds of communicative tasks. So you get things like, when we complained, we were informed that a full refund would be delivered within 3 days. It has not been. My husband was told that the plane was full. We were offered a partial refund, but were unhappy with this particular offer. So again, you can look at the grammar and the vocabulary in those specific kinds of contexts. For me, what it means is when you're making writing lessons, you basically start from thinking about what the end point is, and then you think about what your model is. Whether you're writing the model yourself or you're sourcing the model from somewhere, in the students' lives or from a kind of exam past paper, that's your starting point. Okay, thanks very much for watching and for your interest in Lexical Lab.